You don't technically have to buy in because it's just contracts that are awarded, but you generally have to buy in once so that you can get the experience so that you can be awarded contracts going forward. So we bought in 2 or 3 times just so we could get into different lanes and grow faster. But we started off, we paid like $500,000 for 3 trucks, positioned for 3 trucks out of Pennsylvania.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our channel. My name is Tavi.
I'm Haiti.
And this is our second episode of Stories from the Road. We have a very special guest today. His name is Thomas Griffith. He's a fleet owner, so he'll be joining us very soon. This is Thomas Griffith. He's a business owner, a fleet owner. He has a bunch of trucks. And like I said, we're going to get into his story today. So tell me a little bit about yourself and basically how you even got into trucking to begin with.
Sure. So I spent 15 years as a bank manager for Wells Fargo and a local credit union. And then I wanted to get into the FedEx space. So I heard about that when I was younger and thought it'd be a great idea. So I got with a friend of mine and we bought into some contracts and a bunch of trucks to go to FedEx. Then before long, it kind of slowed down. And so we were looking for other options to keep our trucks moving while it was down. So we set up our own DOT and started looking. And then we found Core Logistics or Spot Edge. I spoke with Nancy over there, and she was very helpful. So we've got now a few trucks running with them under their DOT and a few under ours. We're only allowed to have a few as we got started, so the rest of them under their DOT. And that keeps our trucks moving, keeps our drivers paid, so it's worked out really well.
Awesome. And how did you actually learn about the business?
You're on mute.
Awesome. I was saying, how did you actually learn about the business side of trucking? Like, did you watch a bunch of YouTube videos? Did you have any mentors?
Good question. So, let's see. What I ran as a package handler, actually just like a Christmas helper for UPS. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I ran into a FedEx contractor and learned about the model where you can buy a trucking company, but have them be basically contract with them, and so they can ease you into it, teach you the model. I've been to a bunch of seminars since then to kind of train on the FedEx side. They kind of eased me into the trucking side. So between the brokers and everybody who sold me the contracts with FedEx, I've just learned a lot along the way. And then I've only been doing under my own DOT outside of FedEx for less than a year. And so that's been educational also. So we're just learning every day as we go.
Wow. So you've only been for less than a year. And I feel like that's was a crazy time to sort of join with the market being down and just so unpredictable. So my question to you is, how do you deal with sort of the highs and lows with trucking? Like I said, it's very unpredictable. One day it could be really well, one day it could be really bad. So how do you deal with that?
So it's a lot of debt. A lot of debt helps. But unfortunately, so that's kind of what forced us into the outside world. Is we saw the writing on the wall with FedEx and the declining miles every week, and so we had to get our own DOT. Now that we have more than just one customer, then we're able to, buffer the downfalls a little bit. We're able to Core's been great, and we run a few on our own that we dispatch ourselves as well. And so we look at the load boards and somebody needs some work. It may not be the best paying, but as long as we're not tied to one customer, then we can spread it out and stay busy. So.
Absolutely. Now, Petey, did you want to?
Oh, hey, Tom. I'm Petey. I'm one of the 2 owners at the company. First of all, I really appreciate working with you. I know we haven't met us two, but I chat with Nancy and Eli all the time, and they say such great things about you. So I really appreciate working with you. This call, we have some audiences who are owner-operators who eventually want to build up a fleet like you. So we said, let's hear from you about the successes you had and some mistakes you had and your general advice. So we just want to hear all of that. So thank you very much for your time. my first question: how old are you? Because when I heard fleet owner, I was expecting someone older.
Yeah. Well, I just cut my hair, so I look younger. I'm 38, 39.
Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I really
Okay.
like that. I just jump right in.
Cool. Tell me about the FedEx lane business. Did you have to buy into it? Because I heard some people say you need to like put money up front. So did that happen? And how much did they say you were going to make? How much did you make starting out? And then what did you end up making? Tell me about that business.
Yeah, so I'm a pretty open book, so better be careful what you ask. You don't technically have to buy in because it's just contracts that are awarded, but you generally have to buy in once so that you can get the experience so that you can be awarded contracts going forward. So we bought in 2 or 3 times just so we could get into different lanes and grow faster. But we started off, we paid like $500,000 for 3 trucks, positioned for 3 trucks out of Pennsylvania, and that allowed us to run what they call the unassigned rotation. So we'd have trucks in the yard, and every Tuesday they'd go through and say, "Okay, you're going here this week and this week," and just dispatch them, and then they would immediately be able to turn around at their locations and back to Pennsylvania so they could do it again the next week. So we bought those 3 trucks and ended up getting 2 or 3 more to run as spares to make sure we always had somebody to follow that rotation as trucks broke down. Then we ended up buying routes with a little bit higher standing out of Columbus, Ohio. They are considered dedicated. And this is all available. We use a route consultant a ton to get the base knowledge. Spencer Patton was big in that space. But they were dedicated, so they would like leave first. They would always have the same run, and should have been more money at that time because they would always have the same route and be more efficient if they moved through the terminals. No, it didn't work out the way it's supposed to. I mean, it seems like FedEx is, as the economy went down and then they had to, make money for their shareholders, they started squeezing it and things got less and less profitable. And then with their freight went down, then we couldn't even keep our trucks moving. And so that's why we started looking around and got with Nancy and talked for a while before we pulled the trigger. And eventually we had trucks out of FedEx and we could send it to her. So
You said $500,000 upfront investment. Is that just for the trucks, or is some of that money to FedEx as well?
None of it is to FedEx. FedEx would like to believe that they are just running an altruistic organization that doesn't deal with people's lives and cause bankruptcies and divorces and all that stuff. And to be fair, they aren't really involved in that transaction. It was somebody had been awarded the contract, and we bought the contract from them. So we bought for the right for them to transfer that contract to us. So it was a third party, another contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So part of the $500,000 went towards paying the third party, I guess.
That was all of it, and then we financed the trucks and
It's
okay.
Yeah. So the contract was worth about $500,000. Well, no, I'm wrong. It was way more than that. That was my part. So my partner and I each put in a bunch of money and bought the contracts. Because they generally go for like $200,000, $150,000 per
That's
lane.
what I hear. That's what I hear. Yeah.
And it varies, but
You said you had a friend who was doing this and got you into it. Is he also doing less well, or is he doing amazing and you just got a not great contract?
it's hard to say because the FedEx, the line haul contracts are all the same. So that they're not all the same, but the miles are all the same. So as long as you have a good truck and good drivers, anybody should be able to make money at the end of the contracts. I'm also in the pickup and delivery space, and that's a different game. But the line haul, they should all be pretty similar. So it's just about the guy who got us in, who we bought him from. He feels like more of a broker. So he has a lot of routes coming through him, and not his information isn't the most reliable because he's just trying to move routes. But it was good to get us in because he that's how he gets paid, getting people started in the system. So it was helpful. But I know he does really well. I think more than anything, though, he's just making money off turning them. So I guess I don't know how his trucks are performing with FedEx. other contractors. I mean, it seems like in the industry, there's like 6,000 DOTs that go dark every month or something right now. I mean, trucking is the leading indicator for the economy, and we're just not doing great in the economy. So,
hopefully it'll pick up soon.
Feeling it. Yeah, well, we will be the first to know, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess to the audience listening, most people don't have $500,000 and a partner with another $500,000. I guess did your bank connections from being a bank manager before that must have helped a lot, or was it a lot of personal debt? Like how did that happen?
My path was a little bit different. Like you said, I got in early, kind of like the teenagers that live the van life before working 40 years and retiring. I just jumped in because I was good at debt, right? I figured out I know how to finance debt. We had other businesses, and it came during the time of the PPPs and the idle loans, and so we did a little bit of lending from one to the other in order to saddle myself with way more debt than I should have. So it's long term. Who knows if it'll be a good idea? But I was able to get into debt really well.
Did you have any experience with semi trucks? Because buying the first few trucks, did you buy used trucks? That might be a bit scary, right? But I guess you're in the auto business, so maybe you have some mechanics to check it out.
I do. I have a couple other businesses in that space, but really, what helped us get in for insurance and loans was to say, "Hey, we have a contract with FedEx." Mm-hmm. So I feel comfortable. As we're trying to get into the outside of FedEx space, it's like we can't even find insurance that will take us, and tricky without that FedEx contract.
Tavi, that's most of my questions. I'll defer to you if you have more.
Yeah. So, is there anything, even though your journey is pretty short so far, but is there anything that you would change about your journey?
We need to have better controls on our finance. We don't have enough manpower, administrative power to see what's working well. Mm-hmm. I think that's one downside of starting with FedEx is we started with the customer and the market, and we just tried to put trucks on as fast as we could to satisfy the customer. Whereas starting outside, we're kind of restarting and saying, okay, now what kind of trucks we need? Where would we best deployed? Because there's a huge range of profitability between the different loads that we can do and the different, local versus OTR. So we've shifted from, we tested the waters with one or two trucks with Spot Edge, and then we've put more on recently. And as they manage their stuff so well, we'll probably end up putting more on, because that's one thing in the back office that we don't have the strength for yet. So our trucks are either at FedEx or we've got to figure out where to put them. It seems like the ones at Spot Edge return better on the investment. So,
I have a question. When you started with FedEx, how did you recruit drivers? Because that's a pretty tough challenge, and a lot of new trucking business owners struggle with that. So, what did you try out? What worked? What didn't? How hard was it for you?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. I remember the first team that we recruited was February 14th. It was like we paid for their Valentine's getaway, and then they came to work for us right after. We had to do something, right? So they were actually like my cousins or something. We had a lot of familiar, drivers to begin with. And then it seemed like recruiting from a driver's perspective was a lot easier. So we started with referrals and promoted a driver manager and said that's one of your big tasks is to talk to people. But it's really hard because Indeed, and we tried Monster, there's another one called like Truck Buddy or something that they're using. But the best way was referrals, and until I could speak the lingo also, it was difficult. So
when you say referrals, you were paying out referral bonuses, or was it just begging for papers?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, we definitely overpaid our first drivers so they could, dock us up. I mean, we paid some guys like cents a mile or more, and it seems way too much. But just to try to win favor with them so they talk to their friends.
Makes sense.
Yeah. That makes perfectly sense. And you also said that the drivers, they had, because of them being drivers, they made the recruiting process a little easier because they were able to talk to them. So is that something that you feel like is sort of necessary when you come into trucking? Like you should be on the road for a little bit, or, like as a driver, or what's your opinion on that?
That's an interesting question. So it would help you learn the vernacular faster, so you can gain the respect of the drivers, the potential drivers and recruits. But at the same time, the advice I got so far has been don't get your CDL as an owner, because it's so easy to then just work in the business and never work on the business. So I've been, as much fun as I think it would be. My dad actually drives for me. I thought it'd be fun to go drive with him, but I've been told not to. So I'm not going to get my CDL. I'm not going to be a driver because someone's got to be working on the business, especially that's a weakness we have currently. So.
Now, is that the piece of advice that you would pass on to someone that's looking to start a trucking business? Like, don't get your CDL, and what else?
That's so hard. That was my path, and I can see what weaknesses that's highlighted for me. I know others, if they spend a little bit of time in the business, then they'll be able to know when the drivers are blowing smoke and know how to do the job more efficiently. So that could be a benefit as well. For me, I just need to focus on the admin side. So that's been working. Yeah, it's been working for me. And then just have a good manager who's a driver with experience.
Gotcha. Now, I have two fun questions that I want to ask you just to sort of test your knowledge, your trucking knowledge. The first one is, what is the longest interstate highway in the United States? What's the longest?
Oh, man, you put me on the spot. I don't know. Yeah, I would guess it's either, there's probably one that goes north to south up in Alaska. I mean, what is that? Highway 1? Oh.
Interstate 90. So that's almost 3,100 miles long, and it runs from Seattle, Washington to Boston, Massachusetts. So that's the longest highway. And then my second question is easier. It's a true or false, and it deals with east and north. So interstate highways that run east and west have even numbers. Is that true or false?
Yeah, that is even. Yeah, true.
Oh, good job. Right. Yep, that's true. Because if the interstate has an even number like I-80, it runs east or west, and then odd numbers like I-35, north and south. And then the three numbers like I-280, those are like around the cities and
Ring roads,
interstate. So okay, not bad, not bad. Now, when do you plan on retiring, or are you in it to the end?
Yeah, we're nowhere near that now. We're still grinding, not even making much money. So we're still a ways from that. But as I look around, it seems like not even be a plan ever. Like it just keep having fun, keep playing the game, to stay alive, stay active. So I don't know, retirement. I might take more vacations than I have in the last 5 years at some point, but I don't think I'll retire for a long time.
Yeah. And then I just want to know your opinion. So as the market changes, as trucking changes, the world, honestly, we see more like tech AI being incorporated into trucking, like there's auto trucks, etc. So down and in the near future, is that something that you would be interested in, like switching over and getting like fully auto trucks, or do you think you're always going to want to like have your drivers, etc.?
So I think if I understand the question, you're saying, how would I feel about doing like the automated, like driverless trucks? That you're saying? Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we'll ever get there. I think the Tesla model with at least an operator observing would be the first that anyone would feel comfortable with. But definitely as a business owner, we like having just machines that make money. So I could see how if it gets, proved over time, then it would be somewhere we'd adopt quickly. So,
Anything you want to add?
Oh, I was still curious about the FedEx. So the contract you bought into, it's probably worth money because it sounds like you're doing less of it now. Can you sell it, or have you already sold it, or it's not worth it to sell it? Can you talk about that?
Oh man, there's so many games in there, and I feel like I need to double check and see who my audience is again that I'm going to be sharing this with. I mean, it's going to be. I should have asked at the beginning, but this is going to be broadcasted or shared or is currently live.
It is. So just whatever you're comfortable with, and if you honestly, even if you want to cut some stuff out after, we can do that.
So far, I think we're good. So yes, so it should have some value, right? We have something called the A1 that tells us basically their commitment to us to what trucks they're going to keep moving and what level of commitment they have for our trucks. And so, like a strong, dedicated run should be worth $250,000. The trouble is, FedEx isn't an amazing partner, and so it doesn't always work out the way it's supposed to. And with the economy, again, they're one customer, so they do what they can. But if they don't have volume, they don't have volume. So the values of everyone's contracts has probably decreased quite a bit. I know on the P&D side even more. But so any value that it has, it's still there, but it's less. So we could sell, but we haven't sold. I guess that's not 100% true. We did break off a piece to sell to a friend who was wanting to get into the space. So he got a few of our contracted runs, and he started and is doing well. So so yes and no. There is value there. It's lessened because of the economy, but hopefully it'll rebound when the economy does.
Very helpful. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. At what point will you consider your business a success?
So I've always had this definition of infinitely wealthy that I've strived for, and it's a little more modest than it sounds. But the idea is once it'll pay for our needs with having to be involved every day, then it'll just grow without needing to put in all the time. That would be a point I would celebrate. But I don't know. More and more, it seems like I need to get more into some peripheral stuff. It seems like just like the gold rush, people who guaranteed got wealthy in the gold rush were the outfitters, right? You guys have pivoted and become a dispatch and some other facets to your business. Something like that, I think, would be more consistently successful than just being the guy hoping to get miles each week. So I'd love to see what that brings down the line here.
Dealerships do well. All the dealerships around us, they don't work. Nobody works hard, and they're making a lot of money. But maybe that would be chasing the end of the wave. I mention it because I see you have a Griffith Auto Sale, so I guess you already have a totally in.
And I noticed that I meant to change that, but yeah, that's one of the many things that distract me from making money. Yes, too many fires, too many irons in the fire. So yeah.
Do you have a franchise dealership or just like a non-franchise dealership?
No, in fact, I won't take much time, but I have a couple of restaurants as well. I have I had an automotive repair shop, AMCO transmissions, and the economy got so bad and parts were hard to find and my guys were struggling. So we ended up repossessing so many vehicles because no one would pay for them, or it took too long to get the people to buy their cars, that in order to dispose of them, I had to get a dealer license just to be able to sell more than 6 vehicles in a year. So the dealership hasn't really functioned as a dealership. It's just a bunch of plates to run on vehicles I'm buying to repair and sell, and to be able to legally sell them many vehicles. So not a very fun or sexy dealership, but it is a dealership technically.
Yes. And how do you balance that all? I mean, owning so many different businesses and trucking alone is stressful. So yeah, how do you balance it all?
It's rough. I don't sleep much. I just try to calendar everything out so there's a day that I'm thinking about each thing a week. But drop a lot of balls and have to rely on my partners for a lot. Most things they have partners in as well, so they keep me accountable to what needs to happen. And but yeah, it is tough because the buck stops with me on most all of these things as the president of each company, and then my partners usually silent partners or financing partners, or rarely do they get their hands dirty. They just want to check in with me and keep me accountable so we can keep moving forward. But yeah, I just have like each day I focus on it and then take care of the fires each night.
Awesome, love that. And how do you deal with just sort of that fear and like doubt of the unknown?
So I'm a risk seeker.
Mhm.
That part I accept pretty readily. I'm surprised if I feel more than 60% confident of any outcome. I just have to with what I have and try. So
Mm. Awesome. I think that was honestly very, very well said. And I don't have any more questions. I just wanted to honestly thank you for joining this interview and just giving us so much insight, giving new truckers insight about opening up a business and running a business and just the ins and out of it all. So we appreciate you for working with us as well with your trucks. And any closing remarks that you have to say, Petey?
no, appreciate the opportunity. I hope things continue to go well for you guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye.